A Nigerian Instagram influencer who posted pictures of his lavish lifestyle could spend the next 20 years in a prison cell.
Let's look into the shocking discovery inside the FBI investigation of the immense $1.6 billion Instagram scam. The investigation into a worldwide online con artist identified as Raymond Abbas, who uses the alias Hush Puppy on social media sites, has resulted in the successful resolution of yet another case by the authorities. Hush Puppy was an Instagram influencer who became famous enough to make $1,000 and receive presents from luxury brands such as Fendi, Gucci, and Louis Vuitton. They went as far as to send him personalized cakes for his birthday. He was living the dream up until the year 2020, when a SWAT squad broke into his house while he was sleeping and took away all he owned. His cash, his vehicles, and a list of the email addresses of his victims were taken. Now let's quickly dive into the FBI investigation of the immense $1.6 billion Instagram scam. This is the story of Hush Puppy and the error that caused him to spend over a decade of his life locked up in a prison cell. The year before, he had taken Daddy Freeze, a radio personality, on a tour of his house in the style of the show MTV Cribs during the time that they were admiring his vast collection of designer clothing, Rolls-Royces, Ferraris, and no less than 4 jacuzzis. He related the emotions that he experienced as a result of his incredible wealth. But what exactly was it that he did for a living that he was so coy about? How did a poor kid from Lagos grow up to become the self-proclaimed Lord of Gucci and a billionaire? And how exactly did social media platforms like Instagram and Snapchat bring him down? His true name is Ramon Abbas, and he was born and reared in a poor neighborhood in Lagos, Nigeria. Both of his parents worked on the streets, his father as a cab driver and his mother as a bread vendor. He had a humble upbringing, therefore he longed for a life of wealth and luxury. In addition, when he reached the age when he could legally do so, he launched a side hustle by retailing previously owned designer clothing out of the trunk of his car. In the early 2000s, cyber cafes started popping up all throughout Nigeria. Young people who were without jobs were drawn to these establishments, at first for pleasure, and then later as a chance to generate money through illegal activities on the internet, such as check cashing and romance scams. These youthful con artists were known as the Yahoo Boys. Because they operated their scams through free email addresses provided by Yahoo, they would spend hours searching the internet for megas, which is another word for gullible marks, then spend days, weeks, or even months trying to swindle those marks out of their money. Because Abbas had few other options, he decided to become an enthusiastic Yahoo boy, and he quickly achieved success in this endeavor. But after that, the Nigerian security forces started harshly cracking down on cybercrime, frequently using physical force first and only then asking questions later. Any young male in the area who possessed a smartphone was a potential victim. Therefore, in 2014, Abbas and a large number of other Yahoo lads went to Malaysia, a country with a more advanced internet architecture and law enforcement that was a little laxer towards potential cyber criminals. Malaysia was chosen because of these factors. There, he worked hard to achieve greatness, and the combination of his competitive drive and entrepreneurial zeal catapulted him to the top of his field. At this point, he transitioned into the role of Hush Puppy. Abbas's Instagram handle was Hush Puppy, and he used it to brag about his wealth while also posting inspirational messages about how one may rise above a lower socioeconomic status with time and effort. He blew his money on designer clothes, luxurious watches, and costly automobiles. As his revenues increased, he also bought expensive cars. It was quite uncommon to come across a post that did not include a hashtag for Gucci, Fendi, Versace, or Rolls-Royce. Billionaire Gucci Master was the title that appeared in his bio, and the more he flaunted his newfound money, the more quickly he acquired fans. During the height of his popularity, more than 2.8 million people viewed his posts on social media about his one-of-a-kind purple Rolls-Royce, his trips on private aircraft, and his Fendi shopping excursions. When he reached the pinnacle of his power as an influencer in Nigeria, his most cherished designer brand began showering him with gifts. These included anything from sneakers to a vacation to the Ritz Paris. As a VIP guest of Louis Vuitton in Nigeria, he had become a celebrity. Fendi invited him to lunch with society's finest, and in one event, the Kuala Lumpur branch of Versace hosted him and fellow Instagrammer Samson Oyokunla and awarded them with gifts for being the store's top customers. Fendi also invited him to dine with society's elite, and Samson Oyokunle is also an Instagrammer. In honor of the occasion, Abbas splashed out an additional $20,000 and documented the whole thing on Instagram. In the same period of time, he developed a close relationship with a second influential person, Ismaila Mustafa, also known as Mamfa. Together they flaunted their affluence and luxury clothing, and they were even referenced in the song Living Things that was performed by Nice. One cannot legitimately hold the position of influencer without at some point or another becoming embroiled in a controversy or two. Online, some of them appeared to be staged, such as his argument with the musician Davido, which was sparked by an accusation that Abbas had not paid his bill at a bar in Lagos. However, the two quickly made up in a Snapchat video, and each of them was rewarded with an increase in the number of followers they had. However, not all of his disagreements ended amicably, and in some instances the other party threatened to expose him. During one of these events, he stated that rapper Fina was wearing counterfeit watches. This prompted the singer KC to make the following statement on social media. "You have no credibility, no known source of income, and yet you come on social media to attack hard-working Nigerian musicians who have traceable wealth. In all seriousness, what occupation do you hold? What is it that you are good at? How did you manage to get so wealthy? Which brand do you work for exactly?" The Economic and Financial Crimes Commission of Nigeria needs to begin paying a greater amount of attention to the specifics. Abbas was very open with his devoted fans about his travels, meals, and shopping excursions. However, he never divulged the specifics of how he was able to afford such a lavish lifestyle. And whenever he was questioned about it, you always respond with something ambiguous regarding real estate investment. The tale wasn't selling. But how was he still able to put food on the table? Romance scams can be profitable to the tune of a few $1,000, or even six figures, but Abbas was obviously making millions of dollars from them. BECs, also known as business email compromise schemes, were the real driver of his immense wealth. Abbas had come to the same conclusion as a great number of other people, namely that the best way to make serious money and internet fraud was to target multi-million-dollar businesses rather than individual people. These scams are so lucrative that they are responsible for more than 40% of the money that is taken through fraud and cost an annual average of $1.8 billion. Despite this, we don't hear much about BECs in the press, since in most cases, it's quite embarrassing for the businesses that are engaged in a typical BECs scheme. The victim's workplace email account is compromised in some way. Phishing is one method for accomplishing this, but if the company's security procedures are extremely low, an attacker may even try to guess users' passwords. After that, the con artist will sit back and watch for several weeks or months in the hopes that a huge bill will eventually arrive. Enjoying this video so far? To enjoy more of this content and to be more enlightened on happenings that you've probably never heard about, be sure to subscribe. At this point, they are in a position to intercept the invoice and create a fake one that is nearly identical to the real one, with the exception of the bank information being changed. To match those of their own account, another option is for them to send an email to the people who were supposed to get it from a nearly identical address. In the email, they will explain that the prior account information was incorrect and will provide new ones that go to the scammer's account. They may also build bogus websites, businesses, phone hotlines, and identities, all of which are designed to trick anyone who may perform security checks into believing that the information is legitimate. Once the funds are deposited into the account associated with the scam, they are swiftly transferred to a number of different mule accounts, turned into Bitcoin or used to purchase tangible things such as jewelry or gold. This disguises the origin of the payments and prevents victims from requesting their money back. For instance, in the year 2019, a law office in New York needed to transmit a payment of approximately $922,000 to a customer who had refinanced a piece of real estate prior to sending the money. A paralegal email was required to clarify where it should be delivered. She quickly received a fax instructing her to transmit the money to a separate account. After having no idea that this email had been read by someone else and intercepted, it was only natural for her to verify if the claim was true. But alas, such was not the case. It is incredible that this so-called hush puppy was able to get away with committing fraud over and over again without getting caught. But in the end, life had a way of catching up with him. Mind-blowing crimes revealed. Click the next video to find out more.